Blind date disaster? The rich woman found herself falling for the mechanic single dad who fixed her. Vanessa Hart had never been the kind of woman who needed anyone. She had built her interior design empire from scratch, turning a small studio apartment into a multi-million-dollar business before her 35th birthday. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? She wore her independence like armor, and she polished it every single day. So when her best friend, Diana, practically dragged her to a blind date at an upscale restaurant downtown, Vanessa went only because Diana had been begging for months, and she simply ran out of excuses. The man Diana had set her up with was supposedly a successful businessman, charming and well-traveled, the kind of man Vanessa's world was full of. She dressed beautifully, drove her sleek black Mercedes to the restaurant, and sat waiting at the table with a glass of wine and absolutely zero expectations. The date lasted 45 minutes before the man revealed. He was still technically married, just going through a separation, and Vanessa excused herself so politely that he didn't even realize she had left for good. She walked to her car, sat in the driver's seat, pressed her head against the steering wheel, and laughed until she almost cried. Because really, what else could she do? She started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, and that's when everything went wrong. The Mercedes made a horrifying sound, something between a groan and a clank, and then it simply stopped moving in the middle of the road, 2 blocks from the restaurant. Vanessa sat there in her designer dress and heels, completely stranded while light rain began to fall outside. She called roadside assistance and was told the wait would be 90 minutes. She called Diana, who was already asleep. She sat in the dark, feeling ridiculous, when a pair of headlights pulled up behind her and a man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a worn jacket with a name stitched on the chest that read, Cole. And he had the kind of calm face that immediately made people feel less panicked. He knocked gently on her window and asked if she needed help. Vanessa rolled it down an inch and told him roadside assistance was coming. He nodded, looked at her car, and said he could probably tell her what was wrong just by listening to what she described. She described the sound skeptically, and without missing a beat he said it was likely the transmission, possibly the torque converter, and that she shouldn't try to move the car further. She stared at him. He explained simply that he owned a mechanic shop 2 streets over and had been heading home when he saw her. He offered to push the car safely to the curb so it wasn't blocking traffic, and she agreed because she had no other reasonable choice. Once the car was safely parked, Cole called off her roadside assistance for her, ordered her an Uber from his phone when hers had died, and stood with her in the light rain making quiet, easy conversation that didn't feel like small talk at all. He told her about his shop, how he'd built it himself after his wife had passed away 4 years ago, leaving him alone with his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. He said it without self-pity, just as a fact of his life, the same way he talked about everything else. Vanessa found herself telling him about the disastrous blind date, and he laughed, a real laugh, and said the evening had clearly been saving her from something worse. The Uber arrived, and she thanked him genuinely. 3 days later, she brought her Mercedes to his shop, because there was no logical reason not to. Cole diagnosed the problem, showed her exactly what needed to be repaired, gave her a fair price without inflating it, and had the car ready in 2 days. When she picked it up, his daughter Lily was sitting at the front desk doing homework, a serious little girl with her father's calm eyes. And she looked up at Vanessa and said her bag was the prettiest color she had ever seen. Vanessa sat down next to her and they talked for 20 minutes about colors and design and what Lily wanted to be when she grew up, which changed 3 times during the conversation. Cole stood in the doorway of the garage, watching them with an expression he didn't try to hide. Vanessa started finding small reasons to stop by the shop. A rattle she thought she heard, a check engine light that turned out to be nothing. Cole never pointed out that the reasons were thin. He would check whatever she said needed checking, and then they would end up talking for an hour in the small waiting area over terrible coffee from a machine. that had seen better days. One evening he asked her to dinner, quietly, without drama, the same way he did everything, and she said yes before he finished the sentence. Their first real date was at a diner neither of them would normally have chosen. And it was the best evening Vanessa had spent in years. She realized somewhere between the coffee and the pie that she wasn't wearing her armor, and she hadn't noticed it slip away. And for the first time in a very long time, she didn't want to put it back on. Cole wasn't what anyone in her world would have predicted for her. He was grease under his fingernails and school, pickups, and a daughter who adopted Vanessa slowly and completely, the way children do when they decide they trust someone. Vanessa's empire didn't shrink. Her heart just finally had somewhere to go. Sometimes the best things don't arrive the way you planned them. Sometimes they arrive in a worn jacket in the rain, asking through a window if you need help, and changing everything quietly from that moment forward. If this story touched your heart, please show your love and support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel Kindness True Stories. Your support means the world and helps us bring more beautiful, heartwarming stories to people who need them most.